Hi, my name is Marcus Johnson, and I'd like to welcome you to the Graduate School Experience, From Searching to Getting In, presented by Academic Wave. For more information and resources, be sure to visit academicwave.com. Now, my style of presenting and teaching is to provide valuable information, tools, as well as resources. Also, I like to give unique insight and knowledge, as well as use a touch of humor. So not only will you learn, but you'll have fun at the same time. Let me encourage you to grab a piece of paper and something to write with to take notes down. Also, use the pause and rewind button as need be. So without further hesitation, let's get right into the program. One of the main factors I feel that gets overlooked while searching and applying to graduate school is one's mindset and mentality. Your mindset can either limit you or your choices, or it can open up a wealth of possibilities. What I found that helped myself as well as others get into graduate school is what I coined the McDonald's mindset. So let me address it by asking you these two questions. Question number one. Do you feel that McDonald's makes the best hamburgers? Question number two. Do you believe that McDonald's is successful as a business? Now, I'm sure the answer to question number one was no. There are plenty of places you can go to find better hamburgers than McDonald's. However, I can bet that your answer to the second question, of course McDonald's is successful in business. And the same applies to you. Your name doesn't have to be Mark Twain, Albert Einstein, or Aristotle to go back to get your master's or your doctorate degree. Okay, so maybe you weren't the best writer, or math didn't come easy, and you would cringe at the thought of taking a test. But guess what? If everybody was perfect in those things, there wouldn't be a need for school in the first place. What I found is that those in graduate school didn't necessarily have the 4.0. They didn't have the high test scores, the high standardized test scores. Their IQ tests aren't off the charts. What it is this. They made a decision, they committed to it, and they saw it through. So that's the mentality that I want you to have as well. Come hell or high water, if graduate school is something that you're seriously considering and it has advantages to your future, then it definitely can be done. Some mindsets will get you into graduate school, but they won't necessarily get you out of graduate school. So what I want to do is help develop the mentality of not only searching and getting in, but also getting through. So look, I'm not saying that you won't have to work on your weaknesses. Of course we'll have to do that. But what I want you to focus on is your strengths. Not what's limiting you from going to graduate school, but what you have working for you to go to graduate school. If you have your desire, that's a strength. If you're great at writing, that's a strength. If you're great at math, that's a strength. What I want you to focus on is your advantages, not your limitations as you go through this process. The goal of this program is to move you closer towards being a qualified candidate. And let me explain the difference. An average to good student, they might or might not get into the program. A great student will get into the program. But the difference between those two and the qualified candidate is the qualified candidate not only gets into the program, but also receives money. And that's a big difference. This money can come in the form of grants, scholarships, fellowships, also research assistant positions, graduate assistant positions, and teaching assistant positions. And we'll talk more about that later on in the program. So let's get into the specifics of searching for the right school. And the way I want you to frame it is looking at it as form, fit, and function. First, form. This is the physical properties of the college or university. First of all, the location. Is it located in an urban city area? Is it located in a suburban area? Is it in a rural area or way off where nobody knows exactly where this place is? There are pros and cons to each location because each offers advantages that the others don't. Also, take into account the size of the school, the size of the program. Is it a huge program? Is it small? Is it mid-size? Your past experiences will let you know what environments you work best with, or even if you're looking for a change. Maybe you've gone to big public schools and now you want to see what a small liberal arts school looks like. That could be a possibility, or vice versa. Also, climate is a huge issue when it comes to selecting a school. If you believe that anything less than 65 degrees is freezing, then University of Wisconsin might not be your first choice. The University of Michigan and some schools in the Northeast might not be the route you want to take. Believe it or not, a huge part of your transition and acclimation to your environment is just dealing with the weather. It could be great or it could be miserable. Now that's form. Next, I'd like to speak on fit. And fit is simply your integration into the program. How do you fit into the program? And more importantly, how does the program fit into your lifestyle? You have to remember, if we're talking full-time for a master's, that's about 2 years. And if you're going for your doctorate degree, that can be anywhere from 3 to 6 years. You have to ask yourself, is this something that I can do? Is this something that fits naturally into my life and my lifestyle? Or do I have to make the necessary sacrifices to make it work? Make sure that you look into the diversity of the school, if that's important to you. Are you comfortable with being the only or few of, you fill in the blank? If diversity is important to you, make sure you look into their statistics as it relates to race, as it relates to gender, even non-traditional students, their breakdown of foreign students. If you are very active in a particular community and that's important to you and you want to continue that, make sure that that presence is on the school. Also, make sure you look into if the program is research or practice-based. And what I mean by that is, if it's research-based, then that entails more paperwork, more being in a lab, studying a specific situation or phenomenon. Practice-based is exactly what it sounds like. What you're learning in class, you're putting into practice. So this will involve more internships, more practicums, things outside of the classroom, experiences outside of the classroom that you can bring back into it. And the third key to selecting a school is function. Why are you going to grad school? Or why are you selecting this particular school to go to? And the reason why it's the main key, the reason why it's most important, is that your function, even if you don't get the form and the fit just right, your function will override those two. Make sure that you're going to graduate school because it's something that you want to accomplish. It's not something that you're doing for your parents, something you're doing because your best friend did it, something you're doing because other people around you, your coworkers, are doing it. That's not the reason. Make sure that it's an internal reason for your function of going to grad school, and that'll make all the difference in the world. So when you're initially searching for schools, make sure you think in terms of form, fit, and function. And this should automatically narrow down those schools to, if you get in, that you'll enjoy yourself while you're there. Okay, let's look at the advantages and why going to grad school could be a great choice. First of all, I want you to look at your desired job description. If you wanted to find a purpose, if you wanted to find a reason why going to graduate school, especially if you're in education, could be a great thing, look at your desired job description. And the majority of the time on that job description, there are two important categories that you could be placed in. You see, there's a difference between the minimum / required qualifications, and the preferred qualifications. In the movie Coming to America, there's a scene where they're in church and they're passing the basket around receiving money. And the lady simply states it like this: we like the money that jingles, but we'll prefer the kind that folds. And it's the same thing when it comes to employers. They like when people submit applications and they have bachelor's degrees and associate degrees. They like that. But they would prefer to hire someone with a master's degree. I like to give just a quick example of what I'm referring to. This was a job post for the director of admissions at a particular university on higheredjobs.com. Matter of fact, that's a great resource to go to if you want to work in colleges and universities. Higheredjobs.com. They have plenty of job postings across the nation. So let's look at this one. Director of admissions, the requirements. The successful candidate will have a bachelor's degree in education, business administration, so forth and so on, a minimum of 7 years of progressive admission, so forth and so on, and then boom, right there, preferably at the assistant director level or master's degree in education, business administration, so forth and so on. So that right there lets you know that that graduate degree, that master's degree, places you in another category. It automatically separates you from a lot of the applicants that'll be applying for the same position. What I've also found to be helpful is not only looking at desired positions or job postings, but also the bios of people who already hold those positions. And you'll see that there are many different paths of getting to that particular position, but the common denominator in each is that advanced degree. So simply stated, if you want to know the advantage of having a master's degree, it's because it places you in 9% of people 25 years of age or older in America. It automatically separates you from the majority of the population if you have a master's degree. So look at your ultimate job description, see what's required, see what's preferred. Also look at the bios of those who already hold these positions. And this will give you a very good idea of the advantages graduate school can play. It's like this: you'll rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. When you apply for a position, you want to make it really, really difficult for that employer to say no. And having an advanced degree just makes it that more difficult. Now, you've heard the saying that crime doesn't pay, but education definitely does. This chart, produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, shows a direct correlation between unemployment rate and having an advanced degree. And the same thing goes for weekly earnings. This is also an interesting statistic where it says that 30% of Americans 25 years or older have an associate or bachelor's degree, 9% have a master's degree, and 3% have a doctoral degree. So getting an advanced degree naturally helps you stand out. Now understand, as you're going through the graduate school search process, that programs do vary. They are not all the same. It could be the same degree and the program will still be different as far as its requirements are concerned. Programs and degrees vary as it pertains to their years to completion, what you have to do in order to graduate, whether that be a thesis, a practicum, or an internship. Also, depending on the school, state requirements could be a factor in determining the criteria needed to graduate. Matter of fact, just to give you an example here, we have two schools, University of Southern California and Texas Christian University. Both have the same, or both are offering the same degree, counseling. Yet, their practicums are very, very different. If you look, the USC counseling practicum requires 100 hours of shadowing experience, and the fieldwork component requires 600 hours of actual practice in school settings. So you have that. Now, look at TCU. Remember, same degree, different requirements. Students are required to have 150 hours at their site as a counseling practicum student. Of these hours, they are to spend at least 75 in direct client contact, so forth and so on. Remember, both schools, both programs are offering the same degree, but the practicum, what you have to do to get that degree, is different. So make sure you research the programs and departments of each school so that you understand the criteria that is required to graduate. One of the most efficient and effective ways of finding a program that's tailored to something that you would like to study and research is looking at associations and organizations. And especially within the education area, the American Educational Research Association is the best place to go to find professors and instructors that are studying what you would like to know more about. And they are doing it on a high level. What this association does is it breaks down major educational subjects. So say you have policy or leadership or ed administration, curriculum or counseling. What they do is they break these down into divisions or SIGs, S-I-G-S. They will have listed the professors, lecturers, and instructors who are studying specific topics, specific situations within that one category. So say, for instance, if you want to study the social studies curriculum of an ESL third grade class, then there's some professor that they have listed that's studying that. So that provides the platform, that provides the foundation to communicate with that professor and let them know that you would like to study the same thing. See, unlike undergrad, graduate school is more of an apprenticeship, which means whatever that school or basically whatever those professors are researching and studying, that's what's going to be taught and studied within that program. So one of the major ways to pinpoint exactly what you would like to study is to look it up at the AERA.net website. Again, that's AERA.net. Great resource to have. During the 1920s until the 1950s, there was a notorious bank robber by the name of Willie Sutton. And one day the media asked Willie, "Why do you rob banks?" And he simply responded, "Because that's where the money is." And it's the same thing when it comes to us. The reason why we're researching the programs, the departments, associations, organizations, even the professors, is because that's where the information is. So let's tackle some important questions, especially those of the admissions and faculty committee. One question: can you do the work? Second, do you have a passion about your subject? Third, what have you done to exhibit a growing thirst of knowledge? And then last, what is your probability of completing the program? Okay, now when it comes to answering these questions that the admissions or faculty committee might have, how do you go about that? Well, one way is through showing them with your scores, your GRE score as well as your GPA. But those are just quantitative measures. Those are just numbers that represent you. one of the best parts about applying to graduate school is your statement of purpose. This is an essay in which you can creatively express your personality, your style, and give them your personal voice. So the best strategy to do this is to ask yourself this question: what problem or situation do I want to solve, research, or even challenge? Matter of fact, I want you guys to take some time right now, even hit pause, to think about that question. What problem or situation do I want to solve, research, or challenge? And write that down. Okay, now that you have your problem or situation wrote down, the next thing to do is to address experiences that have significantly enriched, informed, or influenced your decision to go back to graduate school or to study this problem or situation more. Now, there are several areas that you can pull from to address these experiences. One, classes. What classes have you taken to inform or influence your decision to study about this more? You can pull from your extracurricular experiences as well. Maybe your experience in a Greek or student organization helped frame your perspective on this situation or problem. Next, professionally. What work experiences have you had to enrich your perspective about this particular situation? Also, you can pull from your personal experiences as well. If you've done a semester abroad or travel overseas, maybe there was a particular incident that you had to overcome. How did you overcome that obstacle? You can pull from your different experiences personally to address that problem or situation. Okay, next, when it comes to your statement of purpose, make sure that you intertwine questions throughout the essay. Remember, going back to school is an inquisitive endeavor. A person that knows everything doesn't need to go back to school. So make sure that you use questions to let them know that you're interested, that you're curious about wanting to know more. Take into account that your statement of purpose isn't a bullet point of your accomplishments. That's what your resume is for. This is a time to be interesting. Now, when you ask these questions, use research words such as probe, examine, interrogate, or investigate. Those are great research words to use to get to a deeper meaning of your problem or of your situation. Okay, now make sure that you mention specific professors and their work within your essay. And this should not be that difficult because we've already addressed how to find these professors and their work as far as looking at the department and the AERA association. Mentioning specific professors lets them know that you've done your homework, that you're not blindly applying to any school and hoping that they take you. It shows that you're taking this serious, that you've actually gone and researched and studied and looked up what they are actually studying, and could be the biggest difference in getting accepted. Your statement of purpose is also a time for you to address obvious weaknesses. If your GPA wasn't the best during one particular year, address that. If you did not major in education, yet you want to get a master's in education, talk about that and address that as well. And one last thing, when it comes to your statement of purpose, make sure that you proofread it. Remember that these are faculty and professors that will be reviewing your work. And you know it makes them cringe whenever they see something turned in that's supposed to be a quality product and it's just lacking the necessary things to make it a good document. If they ask for 1-inch margins, make sure that your document has 1-inch margins. If they ask for your name and the date and the page number to be on the top left-hand corner, make sure that that's it. Give them what they ask for. Also, make sure you save this document. Even if you have it on a USB, make sure you email it to yourself just in case you lose that. You've put a lot of work into it, and I'm sure you don't want to lose that and start all over because you might have misplaced it. Before going to the next topic, let me address one thing as it pertains to mindset and mentality. Again, This is very important. 90% of the people who apply to graduate school only look at it as far as what they can gain from the school, what I can get from the school if I go there, what the school can give me. Throughout the statement of purpose, I want you to have the mentality and the mindset of not only what you can gain, but more importantly, what you can contribute to the campus, to the community, to the school. If you keep that in mind, not only what you can get, but more importantly, what you can give, what assets, what values, what characteristics that you have that will contribute and make the campus even better, make the department, the program even better, then you're really separating yourself from the majority of applicants. Speaking of standing out and being unique, that's what the entire application process is about. One of the ways you go about that is your GRE score. That's your graduate record examination score. There are plenty of resources that you can use to improve this score. One, Kaplan. Another is Barron's. Another is Princeton Review. Another is ETS. Plus, there's plenty of online resources that you can use to prepare yourself for taking the GRE. Make sure that your study material is up to date, and one of the most important factors in preparing for your GRE is to take as many practice tests as possible. You will become familiar with the format and structure of the test, because trust me, it's one thing to study for it, it's another thing to actually prepare for it under the same time limitations that you would in the natural tests. Next, you want to focus on your letters of recommendation, and that will come from your professors or supervisors. Usually schools will ask for 2 to come from a professor that has instructed you before and 1 that has come from a supervisor or a manager of some sort. An important factor when it comes to your letters of recommendation is that you want it to come from someone who gets you, not just someone who you have a so-so relationship with. Hopefully you can have these come from someone who actually gets you, who you're comfortable with, who you're familiar with, who you have a connection with. Because it's one thing to give a letter of recommendation, and it's another thing to deliver a letter of recommendation. And we want our letters of recommendation to support what we're saying, that we're just this great that you want us to be part of your school. And so the letters of recommendation are literally your support team that says, hey, we vouch for this person. The people who you ask letters of recommendation from, make sure you give them enough time to submit it. If it's due on the 18th, please don't ask them on the 16th. Make sure you give them ample time to prepare. Another good thing to do is to give those who are writing your letters of recommendation your resume as well, so they're able to pull different qualities and different experiences from that. Okay, next you want to follow up. You can actually email professors and departments that you apply to let them know that you're interested. You're different from the rest of the Rat Pack that's just applying, that you actually mean business. So you can contact them. You can follow up with current students that are actually in the program. Ask them certain questions. Ask them what the culture of the program is. What's the pros and cons? What's the advantages and disadvantages? How do they enjoy their experience? Make sure to create a schedule. Know the deadlines. Know the deadlines when you're supposed to have your application in. Know the deadlines of when you're supposed to have your GRE scores in. Also, a lot of these programs, their deadline for scholarships and financial aid is different than the deadline for the application to be turned in. So make sure you know the difference in that. I can't overemphasize the need to be organized when it comes to this whole application process, especially knowing deadlines. The fellowships, the RA, the GA positions, all of those most likely will be different. Those deadlines will be different than the actual application deadline. And lastly, we're going to speak to the miscellaneous. And when I talk about Facebook, Twitter, and accountability team, again, I'm resorting to mentality and mindset. Remember, you're putting your best foot forward, so you don't want anything on Facebook or Twitter to take away from that. Now, I'm not saying that professors and staff and other faculty will prowl around and try to see what you're doing. I'm just saying it's probably not the best idea to have your profile picture up of you downing a bottle of tequila and then applying to one of the top-notch institutions in the nation. It just doesn't look right. Also, make sure you have an accountability team or an accountability partner. A lot of individuals, we just stated that only 9% have a master's degree and 3% have a doctoral degree. So a lot of people don't understand what it takes in order to make this happen. And that's fine. That's okay. But you will need some people who you can talk to and confide in. Make sure that you have that accountability team, that accountability partner, to where you can communicate with them the ups and the downs so that you can keep focused on what you're supposed to do. Okay, so let's talk about a topic that I'm sure you want to hear about, and that's paying for school, financing your way through graduate school. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that there's a reason why I put this close to the end of the program, and that's because even though paying for school, financing your way through school is an important factor, it's not the most important factor. The most important factor is your want, your desire, your mentality, your mindset of going to graduate school. If you want to go, if you have the desire to go, if it's something that you really want to do, then money will come. I'm telling you, even though it sounds strange, but trust me, the money will come once the desire to go is there. Now it's just a matter of being smart with funding your way through graduate school. Now, the first thing you want to do is look at available scholarships through your program, through the school, and also through other agencies, through other organizations or associations. This can be done by going to your local library as well as looking up resources on the internet. Now, take into account that when it comes to scholarships, that there are general scholarships, and then there are some that are specifically set aside for certain people and certain degrees. Next are grants, and grants can come from your school, they can come from your state, or they can come from the federal government. Another way of funding school is through research, teaching, and graduate assistantships. Now, these assistantships are for full-time graduate students, and its purpose is exactly what it sounds like. A research assistantship is basically to do research and to study something. A teaching assistantship is to help a professor either grade papers or get stuff ready for class. You could even help them prepare or get information for a book that they're writing. And graduate assistantships provide you a position within a certain department or program on campus. Usually these assistantships are divided in two ways. Either a person will work 10 hours or a person will work 20 hours. The 10 hours usually subsidize all or some of your tuition. If you work 20 hours, then not only is your tuition subsidized, but you'll also receive a stipend. Next are fellowships. And fellowships are basically set aside for a student to research and study a particular subject or topic. Now understand that a fellowship can last anywhere from 1 year to 2 to 3, even 4 years. And last and definitely least are loans. If you have to take out a loan, make sure that you educate yourself on the information. Be sure that you understand the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans are federally guaranteed loans based on financial need, and the interest does not accrue on the loan while you're in school at least half the time. and during any future deferment periods. Unsubsidized loans are federally guaranteed loans that are not based on financial need, and the interest accrues from the time the loan is dispersed to the school. In other words, if you have to take out a loan, see to it that it's subsidized. Also, make sure you keep an eye on the interest of your loan. A lot of times, that percentage might not seem like a lot, but over time, it adds up. By all means, do the best that you can to avoid taking out a loan. If you have to, make sure that it's the least amount possible. All forms of financial aid can be electronically submitted by going to www.fasfa.ed.gov. Just remember, with the information that you're receiving through this program, it'll give you the advantage of receiving a scholarship, a grant, an assistantship, or fellowship. But by all means, do not allow the concern of money or finances to limit or prevent you from applying to graduate school. A valid concern that comes up when people are looking into graduate school is whether they should take courses online or on campus. Which one is better? Courses online or the traditional way of going to school? Now, there are several factors I like to address that will separate which one might be better for you. When it comes to accessibility, online courses, you don't have to commute. You can live in another city. Basically, if you have access to the internet, you have access to class, whereby traditional forms of education, you have to be on campus. Another factor is self-discipline. When it comes to online courses, usually they're given any time of the year. So you have to develop the self-discipline in order to stay on schedule, whereby the traditional form of graduate school is routine and it goes by semester. Now, flexibility is another important factor when it comes to choosing between online or traditional. If your work schedule fluctuates, if you don't have the opportunity to scale down sometime or to quit, then online courses might be best. Now, with traditional forms of education, graduate classes usually occur in the evening time for about 3 hours. So you're looking at that 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. window to take a class. Now, when it comes to cost, this is one of the main differences in online versus traditional. It is far less expensive to take classes online than it is traditional. Now, the socializing aspect of making this decision is important as well. Most of the contact that you will have taking the course online will be indirect contact, meaning it will be either through email, through Skype, or through a telephone conversation. But with traditional forms of education, you're actually learning in groups. And to me, there's a synergy about being in the classroom that can't be replaced if you're at home, at a desk, or at the dinner table by yourself. You also have access to campus facilities, such as the library, the computer lab, and other resources. And lastly, another important factor when making this decision is to take into account the prospect of job opportunities once you graduate. Online degrees and programs are gaining momentum, yet you still might run into some bias with potential employers. Also, make sure that the online program is accredited. With traditional forms of education in graduate school, campus has industry collaborations as well as job placement opportunities. Okay, now that you've done all of this hard work, you've researched, you've studied, you've prepared, you've made contacts, let's see what you are putting forward. First, you develop the mindset and the mentality of going to grad school. Next, the GRE score. We talked about resources to use to make a great GRE score. You've crafted a well-prepared statement of purpose that speaks to your strengths as well as what you'll contribute to the campus and the community. Then you have your letters of recommendation, We talked about who to ask for those letters of recommendation, as well as what to include when you ask them. You know the financial options for school, and you've gone over that. And then you followed all of this up by making sure you're organized, having a schedule, and knowing the deadlines, as well as the miscellaneous aspects of applying for graduate school. But above all, mindset and mentality is the most important thing that you develop over this time. And once you have all of those things put together, what do you have? You now have the total application package. Now allow me to tell you this. You've done all of this work. You've put your best foot forward. You're presenting the best you that you possibly can to that department, to that school, to that university. And if they still do not admit you, then you're better off going to another college or another program. I mean, think about it. If you've done all of this work and they still don't respect that, or they still don't feel that you fit their school or their program, it just makes sense that you'll be better served going somewhere else. Make sure that you apply to at least 4 programs. 1, your dream program. Might be a long shot, but that's okay. 2, very solid programs that you have a really good shot of getting into. And then your 4th program, you want to be a surefire thing. And that's why I want to impress on you that there's a difference between being accepted versus embraced. When you're accepted into a college, that's fine. They have no problem getting your money and giving you a degree and letting you go about your business. But when you're embraced, you make connections, you grow within the program, you develop within the program. You're not only learning information and learning theory, but you're applying it as well. Because one of the best things about graduate school and attending graduate school and graduating is not the piece of paper that comes with it. That's all fine and dandy. But the most important thing is not what you get, but who you become. So there you have it. It is my sincere hope and prayer that this program has played a part in your graduate school success. I would also enjoy hearing from you about how this program helped you in any way. Be sure to email me at info@academicwave.com. Again, my name is Marcus Johnson, and for more information and resources, be sure to visit academicwave.com. Creative approaches for educational achievement.